Gone are the days when formal education was the only emphasis for young people in Nigeria. The new trend is skill acquisition, in addition to any course of study in school. Many young people, including bakers who have vocational skills, are not just doing great, but are employers of labor. You're watching Baker's World on NTA. I am Funke Oyele. Many thanks for watching. This episode offers an opportunity to explore bread and pizza recipe. If you have any interest in starting a baking business, this is a must watch for you. Our guest is a professional baker who has been able to translate our hobby into a baking career. You'll get to know more about her in our conversation segment. All these and more for you on the show. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Bread is a snack to some, while a great number of people love it as a staple food. Today on this segment, our guest baker Olusolakpe and our assistant will be showing us how to make pizza, sardine bread and burger buns. I'm sure you won't want to miss this. If you're ready, let's hand over to our baker now.
Before we start baking today, we're going to wash our hands because we're using our hands for a lot of things that we'll be doing. So for our sardine rolls and our burger bun, we have a 7-ingredient recipe. This is my second ingredient. I stir 50 grams of sugar, a tablespoon of yeast, a tablespoon of salt to my flour. While I pour my flour, salt into the liquid mixture, my assistant will measure out for me 90 grams of margarine. At this point, my mixture is getting thick. I'm going to add my margarine to help soften the thick mixture while I use my hand to complete the mixing. And then I can add my remaining flour gradually. At this point, I will transfer my mixture to my mixer to mix using my dough hook to complete the kneading process. My dough is ready, so I'm just going to cover it and keep in a warm place for it to proof before we move to the next stage. The pizza dough is what we are looking at next. I would start by measuring my water into my bowl. I add 3 tablespoons of oil. Let's measure 375 grams of flour, 1 tablespoon of sugar, then my yeast. Lastly, we're going to add our salt. Time to add my flour and salt into my water. I'm going to use my dough hook to knead. Our pizza dough is not as stiff as a lot of other bread doughs. So we're going to add a little oil to our pan before we transfer our dough. I set my dough aside for proofing. Now our dough is ready and proofed. As you can see, I'm going to knock it down To knock out the air, I bring it out onto my work table. A little flour here so that it will not stick to my table. So we're going to be making burger buns from this, as well as sardine rolls. Our burger buns works with precision in the weight. So I'm going to use my scale to measure 100 grams each. Each burger bun will be 100 grams. I have 400 grams each here. I'm going to roll it into a ball shape. When molding your dough for any bread, you have to ensure that your dough is tight so that the under of your burger bun will be smooth. You roll it, rub it on your surface. Roll it, rub it on your surface so that the under will be smooth. When baking your burger bun, please bear in mind you need a spacious pan. Your burger buns need space so that they can come out individually. I'm going to also flour my pan lightly. Flouring my pan. This pan can take about 6 or 8 burger buns. I'm going to spread out this 4 that I have here from this particular mix. You can see that the buns are well spaced so that they can bake evenly and individually. This I set aside to prove again before baking. The proving this time around would be a mild one, not as long as the first time. I told you that the sardine roll would not require precision like your burger buns. So I'm just going to shear my dough into 6. So you can see I've sheared my dough into 6, not necessarily measuring them. At this point, my assistant will bring the sardine while I flatten the dough. He's going to drop a little sardine in each. We're adding sardine to the center of our dough. Now, I'm going to fold them over. Please bring the pan. I'm rolling my dough into balls before I start to arrange into my pan. When rolling into ball, make sure your sardine is not exposed and make a neat ball. If your sardine shoots out at any point, you will not get a round shape when your bread is baked. You can see my neat balls. If you weren't told, you wouldn't know that they contain sardine. I would arrange my rolls into my 8-inch pan. So my assistant will set it aside to proof for about 20 minutes. Our pizza dough has also doubled in size. It is proofed. We're going to prepare the toppings before we put the dough in our pan. So that's our cheese. He's grating it using the small size of the grater. Our pizza topping will be our beef and our sausage meat. So I'm going to cut it into bits. Remember, you can garnish your pizza with whatever you will. Next, I prepare my sauce. The choice of sauce for your pizza is also at your discretion. It could be Italian dressing, oyster dressing. Today, however, I'm going to be combining 1 or 2. Here with me, I have my barbecue sauce. I'm going to add in my tomato ketchup. Then I'm adding my sweet, spicy sauce. Thereafter, I mix the three together. Next, we're going to be cutting our vegetables. We're going to be cutting our onions. We have our bell pepper, which I will cut myself. You can see that our dough has proved further. We are ready to put it in our pan. Please bring the two pans. Before we put our dough in our pan, we are going to oil the pan generously with our oil, not margarine this time around. You can see that my dough is soft but not sticky to my pan because my pan was well oiled. You can see I'm sprinkling a little flour to firm up my dough. I'm taking the measurement because I'm going to share into two. You can see my dough is very soft. All I need to do is to spread my dough so that it covers the surface of my pan. We start with our sauce for the toppings. Be generous with your sauce. That is what gives your pizza the unique taste. Thereafter, we add our cheese. Remember, we grated it. We add our vegetable, the onions, and the bell pepper. We add our sausage or chicken franks, as it is called. Next will be our shredded beef, our minced beef. And we garnish further with our sauce. That is what gives your pizza the unique taste. Lastly, we add our cheese. Our pizza is ready to go into the oven.
While our dough is in the oven, we'll take a quick break here, and when we're back, we'll be having a chat with our guest baker. Please don't go anywhere.
When I realized that I had a passion that wouldn't go away for baking, and when I realized also that people appreciated the work, the cakes I made for them, and were willing to part with some money for it.
Our guest today is a creative and pleasant baker. Oluwasolakpe Bamijoko is a microbiology graduate, born in Lagos State on the 16th of January 1972. She obtained her first degree from the University of Ibadan in 1994 and proceeded to the University of Lagos, where she backed her master's degree in humanitarian and refugee studies in 2002. This amiable baker's interest in the culinary world stemmed from watching a family menu program on the Nigerian Television Authority as a young girl in the 80s. She is a wife and mother of 3 children. Her brand, Creative Fingers, has produced cake and confectionaries for events and milestone celebrations. Join us as we welcome our guest baker, Oluwasolakpe Bamijoko.
You're welcome back. You're still watching Baker's World on NTA. Today I have with me our guest baker. She's a woman who turned her hobby into a baking business. She's a woman who is used to making hot cake, and now today she's become a hot cake in the baking business herself. You're welcome to the program, madam.
Thank you.
The first thing I want to ask you, you were always baking. It was a hobby. You were doing it for people. How were you able to turn it into a career today?
As you know, I bake for people's occasion, their birthdays, their weddings. I realized that people liked my creativity. When I eventually turned it into a profession, I needed to follow up with 1 or 2 trainings in cake making and decoration. I also needed to put some structure into place.
There were reports during the lockdown that a lot of people were ordering for bread because they had to stay at home. Now, what I want to ask is, given the situation and the caution for health and safety during that period, how were people still able to like say, "Oh yes, I'm going to trust the source of bread and order bread and still eat it during this period"?
Yes, during the lockdown, especially the initial stage, there was a high demand for bread. I would say instead that people now are more confident in the bakery business. People are more confident in bakers because they know that there are regulatory bodies like NAFDAC that regulate the operation of bakeries to ensure that the bread coming out of bakeries is fit for consumption.
I'm glad you mentioned the regulatory body. Now, as a consumer of bread myself, if I pick up a bread from the shelf, what are those simple things that I can check on the label to ensure that what I'm buying is of standard and it's okay for me to consume?
You should be able to look at the bread. Number one, is it well packaged? Two, you check for the ingredients that were used to make the bread. Information to also look out for is NAFDAC number, which is the approval of authorities concerned. You should also look out, for any other special additive to the bread in case of allergy.
Okay, you've been in this baking business for a while now. I know there must have been a lot of ups and there must have been a lot of down. Can you share with us one of your first rookie mistake that you made?
First rookie mistake that I wouldn't forget in a hurry was using deep color in the height of rainy season. The client requested for a cake to be decorated with navy blue, and by the time I finished this cake and decorated it, I went to the bakery about 2-3 p.m. to go and deliver, and then lo and behold, my cake was melting.
What
It
happened?
was sweating. What happened was that in the thick of raining season, you have to be watchful when you use dark colors, because dark colors take a longer time to dry out than ordinary lighter colors.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure having this conversation with you.
Thank you. Pleasure is all mine.
That was our chat with the CEO of Creative Fingers, Mrs. Olusolakwe Bamijoku. Our pizza and bread should be ready now. But before we get back to the kitchen, we have Baker's Gist for you.
What is personal excellence? Personal excellence is simply put the aspiration to be the best that you can be in everything and at everything that you do, whether in your business, whether in your career, whether in your academic pursuits. In my own pursuit of personal excellence, there are 5 areas that I would want to suggest that one can focus on. Number one is that you need to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, nobody else will do. Well, personally, I want to tell you that I've been able to achieve a couple of things that probably nobody have felt. I mean, looking at me from the exterior, somebody have felt I can't do it. Well, I probably say I ran the marathon, and I was able to do that successfully. So you have to believe in yourself. That's number one. Number two, you have to keep honing your skills. The achievements of yesterday, or rather, whatever ability you use to achieve your results for yesterday, are not sufficient for today. One of my mentors calls that creative destruction. Right? Anything you did that was good enough for yesterday will tell you that was only good enough for yesterday. Leave that as it is. Move on to the next thing. That is, you have to keep improving on your abilities you have to go from fundamentals to intermediate, and from intermediate to advanced.
Before me are the filling for our burger bun. Burger bun has baked and cooled. Our sardine bread also baked and cooled. Our sardine bread is good to go as it is, ready to eat, but the burger bun, we need to dress it to make it into hamburgers. This is my mayonnaise. I'm going to add my ketchup into my mayonnaise, and then I'll be adding a little of my soy sauce. I will add my spices to my sauce. A pinch or two will do. You don't want to overspice your hamburger. I would slice my bread in the middle. My assistant will be unwrapping the cheese while I cut the tomatoes. My onions. For your hamburger, I take the first slice. Next is my lettuce and closely followed by my tomatoes. I will add my onions and my beef. Lastly, we'll cover with our cheese and lettuce. Sardine roll is ready. Burger bun turned into hamburger is ready. And our pizza is also ready just in time.
This looks so amazing. Well done. You know, there's so much to taste from today, and I'm going to give you a comment about each and every one. But let's start with the pizza. The pizza, spicy and very juicy, very tasty. I love it. And of course the burger buns, oh, that is also very delicious. I wish you could have a taste of it. You know, it's been said, if baking is any labor at all, it is a labor of love. And it's a love that's been passed from generation to generation. You too can bake a delicious bread recipe like this at home, or you can even turn it into a baking business. I hope you've learned a couple of things from our baker and our assistant. So we'll come your way next week with a more exciting episode of Baker's World. You can reach us on all our social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. It's Baker's World on NTA. We hope to see your comments and feedbacks. See you next week. I am Funke Oyele. Bye for now.